Hey everyone, the Nostalgia Critic's the Wall. Okay, I apologize. I should have started this video off with a trigger warning. But yes, this infamous, strange, weird little album is miraculously turning 7 years old this year, and I don't know if you've noticed, but it's kind of attained and maintained legend status in the bad music world, with numerous YouTubers and content creators still developing video content and essays and critiques of it. And the album itself, believe it or not, still pulls in thousands of streams every year, with a lot of non-fans pulling up to gawk in awe at its, all the stuff that makes it special. And even my review of the album has kind of like gone down as one of my bigger videos as well. So I thought now was as good a time as any to revisit Nostalgia Critic's The Wall a little bit and get some insight on the whole thing from somebody who was involved with the project, Mr. Rob Scallon, a super talented songwriter, guitarist, video game developer, based out of Chicago, legendary YouTube dude, who we have had on the channel before, good friend of the Needle Drop. But for a really long time, he has been very low-key about his involvement with this project, which is understandable given how negative the blowback for it has been over the years. However, Rob has been gracious enough to give to me his first post the wall interview, going into basically, again, his involvement, his thoughts on it, and the surprising amount of streaming royalties he makes off the record every year. With that, let's go into the conversation. Everyone, as I said, we have here with us the one, the only, the multi-talented YouTuber veteran. Love this guy, greatly inspired by this guy. One of my goats, one of my OGs. It is none other than Rob Scallon. Thank you for being here, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Proud to be here. Happy to be here.
So yeah,
we've been doing YouTube a while now, man.
For a long time. I mean, it's been years. It's been years since our last conversation together.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember what year you started, but I decided to be like a professional YouTuber in January 2008.
Right.
So
which was even before me.
Oh, really? Oh, I thought you were.
It wasn't really full time until like 2011, 2012. Yeah. I mean, I was on YouTube before that, but it definitely was not full time.
Yeah, I wasn't able to like pay all my bills with it. I mean, in 2008 too, I was in high school, so I didn't have bills to pay.
But in 2008, you decided you were going to be.
I did, and then it became my job. Yeah. Well, and it became my job, but it was like, I was making more than I was making at my minimum wage skate park job. But yeah, for me, when I went full time. Was 2013. So you beat me there when I was like actually full time.
Okay, well, in the spirit of what we're talking about here, when you are creative online and you're making your way, going through different projects and things like that, you'll find yourself maybe making some money doing the oddest and most peculiar things, which is how we arrive at this point where, you have taken part in recording and, creating, at least, the music and everything for the legendary Nostalgia Critic, The Wall parody album. Now, I'll say from my own perspective, I know there's a lot of people that know you've had involvement in this record.
Yeah.
And that at the time the album dropped, I was aware of that and I reviewed it and I talked about it. But I can't remember if this was immediately after I talked about it or if it was like just before I had talked about it. But I know when the album originally came out and the reactions to it were very quick and were very fast. If I remember correctly, very negative. If I remember correctly, like your name was very clearly attached to the project from the get-go when it came out. And then like once the reception started to come through, I remember you said to me in some form or capacity, you were like, okay, don't mention me. And the same name is don't like when this comes up, don't say my name. Okay. It's like, I know that that I did music for it and so on and so forth. But if any of this comes out or whatever, just don't bring me up. Okay. And then I remember making that promise to you. I was like, I get it. You sort of had a supportive role here. I'm not putting this on you, but I won't bring you up, man. If I'm talking about this record for sure.
Oh, I don't remember that. Man,
I remember you at the time being
maybe
like
that's like not cool.
a little shocked and like taken aback
I
by
was, yeah.
yeah.
I don't remember that, and maybe that's like not cool of me because I definitely made the music for it. You
No,
know?
I don't listen. I don't think it was not cool of you. Like, I don't think I don't think any type of way of you for, you know, saying that or whatever. You know, I think that, you know, at the time you were maybe sort of like concerned that your level of intent in the project would be misattributed, you know, like because, you know, obviously, and again, just to sort of like start off this conversation, I think that, you know, given how vitriolic a lot of, you know, some of the criticisms of The Wall are on the album, there was probably full presumption from anybody watching it, like, oh, everyone involved in this must feel the same way, because this is like a pretty big opinion to go fully in on. And it seems like there's a lot of effort going into making this happen just for people to sort of like be taking part and thinking like, whatever, you know, it's just The Wall, fuck it, you know? But like, you know, with all that being said, kind of take us back to the time, because, you know, again, the purpose of this conversation is to kind of like finally bring some context to this project, because since it's come out, it's kind of become pretty infamous, you know,
Yeah.
and people still to this day, like it's as much hate as the album has gotten, they still talk about it. There's still like a lot of talk and discussion about the album.
Yeah, which is like really surprising to me and also surreal in a lot of different ways. But yeah, people still make like long essays about how terrible it is. And I don't watch them, but I do see them come up. And there was even like quite a few this year, and people are still streaming the album in this like hate listen type of way.
Hmm.
But yeah, the story of it is pretty interesting, and I want to give a lot of credit to my wife Tamara, because when I was deciding whether or not to do the project, she was like, "I don't think you should do it."
Off the bat, shout out to Tamara. Shout out to her.
Shout out to my wife Tamara. She was like, "I don't think you should do it." You know,
behind every bad decision is some guy's wife who is advising him not to do it. Is the moral of the story.
Yeah. And she was right, because she was an actor on Nostalgia Critic for like 10 years, you know, and she fully understood, you know, I'm kind of new. I'm not in that world, you know. I'm not like you, where I'm putting out these like sometimes scathing critiques of things, or like making fun of things that people love or whatever. But she was very used to being in that world, being in the Nostalgia Critic world, and knowing the backlash when there would be an episode where Doug would really rip into things that people like, or just makes, you know, parodies or doing this like scathing critique in this Nostalgia Critic character. And she knew that to be really, really stressful. I knew that was new. That was new to me. You know, my place on the internet is overwhelmingly just lighthearted, fun music times.
Sure.
And that's more what I was used to. But she was like, I don't think that you should do it, because it's gonna have a huge backlash. And boy, did it ever. But yeah, my involvement was kind of interesting, because it was, I don't know where to start, but originally it was just like, he had this idea. Doug's also from Chicago, and had this idea to make this video on The Wall, and to really go all out with it. And he asked me if I wanted to do the music. And originally, and another thing about it was like, I remember it being really stressful because the timeline was so ridiculous. But I think, and another part, it was like, it was kind of cool for me to like analyze those songs, because it's such a classic album, and like going in and recreating the songs pretty much as fast as I could. But then I get like an understanding of how those songs were created. Or just from a songwriting standpoint. I'm not really sure where to start, but it was
ironically, I do want to ask, like,
yeah, ask me anything you want about it. I haven't ever talked on the internet about this.
No, I know. And that's part of the reason that we're having this conversation. But you know, before we continue on that point, and I just want to know if there's like an irony here to this, like, did your taking part in this anti-Wall project because you were asked to sort of like create all the music for it from the ground up? You know, obviously you're basing it off of what, you know, another artist has made, but you still have to like learn it and commit it to memory and sort of like analyze it and pull it apart and reverse engineer it. Did taking part in this anti-Wall project give you an appreciation for how the music
absolutely
was made, or like,
I love The Wall.
Well,
I
I
love
mean,
it.
many of us do, you know,
Yeah.
but through this, you've kind of learned its in and outs in a way that a lot of people don't necessarily ever get the chance to.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was something that was exciting about it for me. And I didn't, again, this is probably just like ignorance on my side, but I was like, oh, this is just like a silly thing. I'm not actually going out and being like, I'm anti the wall. I'm anti
Right.
Floyd. Uh, like I want to get in a fight with Roger Waters or something. Like it's
Right.
this, I never interpreted it that way, which is maybe an ignorance on my side. And I think that's something I learned too, is like when you go aboard someone else's project, you kind of inherit the what's the right word? I don't know, like the culture around it.
Yeah. Or the messaging, however it's being received.
Yeah, yeah. And it seems like you're like co-signing on that. When for me, it was just kind of a gig.
Right.
And I had worked with Doug before in the past, especially in my early career. And again, Tamara has been working with him, was working for him for like 10 years, you know, on the show. And so I was around and I loved the skits and like putting on costumes and doing silly shit online.
Yeah.
Uh, anyway, where was I? Where was I even going?
Well, you know, just for context, like, you know, the Nostalgia Critic isn't everyone's cup of tea as far as content creators go. But, you know, prior to all of this, like, he had a pretty established brand and website, and, you know, people sort of knew what he was all about and sort of like, you know, broadly understood the Nostalgia Critic character. But simultaneously, this record blew up so huge that it's like creating this influx of people that like don't have a context for any of that and might not necessarily see what he's doing as I mean, you know, there's genuineness behind what he does, you know, on his platform, but, you know, might not see there being maybe an element of hyperbole or something there to begin with. Doesn't mean the album's good to listen to or that all the criticisms are salient of the wall that he's making. But, you know, it's sort of like bringing a lot of people in that have no context for this other than this guy hates the wall for like the craziest reasons imaginable and made all this almost unlistenable album just in service of his feelings around this project. And yet again, that doesn't necessarily come through in the music all the time because you played the instrumentals pretty straight. I would imagine on some level, if maybe you felt the same level of vitriol for the album that Doug did, I don't know, maybe you'd be playing the guitars really shitty or something, or like the solos would all suck or whatever. Like, you know, there'd be something like goofy or warped or sort of like out of place about the instrumentals. But again, it really sort of seems like you paid clear attention to how they were put together and redesigned them faithfully.
Yeah, that was my goal. I kind of just wanted to in some parts when, you know, for the solos, for example, like I think I remember I did some of this. I kind of wrote or like improvised some of the solos on my own, like just kind of for fun. But yeah, I was just doing the wall as closely as I could and kind of analyzing it and getting it done in a really, really short amount of time. I think it was like 2 weeks or something like that. And I remember that being stressful because it was so quick. But yeah, some contacts. I had worked with Doug in the past, particularly in my early career. And remember he asked me for a song. He's like, could you create this song for me? And he was like, I'll use it in my video and then you can just get all the iTunes and streaming royalties for it. And I think that was Batman versus Superman, maybe, or maybe it was I Fucking Love Christmas or something like that. And then we did the video like early on in my career when like money was really tight. Maybe it was like 2014 or something about that, right when I went full time. And then he put it out, he shouted it out on iTunes, and I remember it made like $3,000 in that month, which was like huge for me, and particularly at that time. And so this was kind of just like same old. He's like, do you want to do this again? But it's like a whole album. And I think he was expecting me to just like strum a guitar for the whole thing. And like this was done so quickly. But I was like a lot more interested in doing the full songs and like learning the full songs. Like I grew up with The Wall. I was one of those kids who, when I was 12, would like watch The Wall with my friends and be like, what does it all mean? You know, and it was just like this mythical album. And
yeah, were you playing the album to the Wizard of Oz and stuff like that? You know?
I never did that.
Were you like one of those guys? You weren't one of those guys?
No, I never did that.
That's totally fine.
Yeah, you were definitely one of those kids.
No, I was not one of those guys.
Yeah, but that was kind of my interest, and I think he was like kind of surprised when I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm doing the whole thing." And then I remember I put it together really quick. And then I think he came over once to do all the vocals, and then I got paid a little bit for my production time, which I used all of that to hire a producer. So I just wrote. I didn't write any of it except for some of the solos. So I just created all the music and then handed it off to a producer, handed off everything, the vocals, all the instruments and everything. And it was a pretty quick turnaround. And then so I used that money to hire the producer, and then it was done. And then just like the other ones, then I make all the money from it, which is like weird that it's like 6 years later and people are still listening to it in like this hate, like they as like a joke or something. Like I don't know. It's just weird what it has kind of become.
Yeah, you texted me out of the blue to say that the the amount that it was streaming per year was like kind of surprising. You were like, damn, it's like it's kind of racking up some decent dough for the fact that people hate it and people are kind of like listening to it all the way through and like really committing to the bit and hearing the whole thing.
Yeah, and when it came out, it was honestly a punch to the gut. I knew when I made it, it was like, oh, I'm just making the instrumentals. This is like just something I'm being hired to do.
Okay, wait, before you describe this part, so once it was done, wrapped, I mean, obviously you're there and you're involved to some degree for the final assembly to it, but was there ever a point between point A and point B being when it's like out into the world where you got a chance to like sit down and like really listen to it and think about like what was happening? Or was this just like, you were just like kind of going through the process?
I was just kind of going through the process. I didn't really give Doug's lyrics much thought. And okay, that's Doug doing his thing. His audience loves it.
So then once it comes out, what happens then? Like,
oh man,
how quickly does this turn into an oh shit moment?
Pretty immediately. Pretty immediately. Also shooting the video. Initially, I was just going to do the music. And then that was kind of that. And then I was going to be the one that put it out under Doug's name. And then they're like, oh, Corey Taylor's showing up. Do you want to film with us? Like,
which is still to this day, maybe the most insane thing about like the whole project.
Yeah,
still
like
to this day.
Yeah,
because like Corey Taylor's in it, which is like honestly a claim to fame that I feel like a lot of the project's biggest haters could never have to themselves. It's like, well, at least Corey Taylor's in it. You know what I mean? It's like you don't have a project with Corey Taylor in it.
Yeah, that's something about it too. That's so odd.
And, you were on a project with Corey Taylor. That's sick as hell.
Yeah, I'm on an album with Corey Taylor. That's
right.
Like considered. A lot of people online say it's the worst album ever made.
But a lot of people can never say that. A lot of musicians could never claim that.
Yeah. I've got to film a few times with Corey. I love filming with Corey. But yeah, and so then I ended up in the video, which was also like fun, and I'm not really giving it much thought. Like, as you know, like being a YouTuber, you're working on a million bajillion projects all at once.
Sure.
And this one is like, I got done with the stuff I was doing for my own channel, maybe during the day at like 7, and then I'll spend like 7 to 9 p.m. like creating the next 2 songs or whatever. But yeah, once it came out, there was this like, oh, I've never been on this side of the internet before. I've never had something like kind of blow up or have videos with millions of views that are talking about how terrible it is.
Right.
And it was kind of concerning. Like, is this now going to be something I hear about all the time for the rest of my life? And kind of like, I still hear about it, but I feel differently about it now, but it was surreal. Like, I saw your video and I think the title or even the thumbnail was like not good or like 0 out of 10. And I watched it like, and I remember that conversation I had with Tamara where I was like, yeah, but I remember like, it's a good opportunity. I want to make these songs. And I think I like the criticism will happen, but that's just what Doug does. Like that's he makes videos about movies and tears them apart, and fans of that movies hate it. And then everyone argues. And like, it's just a lighthearted thing. But then when it actually started happening and seeing your video, it was a punch to the gut. Honestly, it was like, it hurt. but it's the further it, it goes, the more of a, I don't know how I would have reacted initially, and I just felt like I wasn't gonna, I won't say anything online about it because there's so much hype around it that anything I say would then end up in a bunch of essays about it, and maybe I would say the wrong thing. Even now, I wonder like, am I saying the wrong thing right now? But I think given the time frame and when I had to make those songs, I think I did a pretty good job. Like it's, the music is there, and it's not a masterpiece, but
I will say, anybody watching this, do not attack Rob. I will take any bullets that you might throw in Rob's direction as a result of this interview. I will shoot at me. Okay. There's nothing wrong with Rob here.
Yeah, well, now I feel a lot differently about it, and with I remember there were some people online that were like, "Shame, how could you do this?" Or I'd see like there was like also a respectful like jest about it, where people were like, "Hope you got paid for this," like,
right.
How much you sell your soul. And now a little bit later, like I was telling you, it's been out like 6 years, and somehow people are still making videos about it, and people are still streaming it. Like in 2025, that the streaming revenue for that was 1,400, about that. So now 6 years later, that it's been essentially like paying my phone bill for 6 years, I feel a little bit differently about it. It's like that kind of helps.
Yeah, you trade trauma for phone bill. I feel like that's like a fair trade-off,
Yeah, and but being, again, what we were talking about earlier, being a YouTuber constantly making stuff for 18 years now, 12, 13 as a full-time job, you're gonna have some stuff that ends up in this category where it's talked about because it's bad.
Where it haunts you. I mean,
it did haunt me for a little bit, but especially like, I don't know, right after it was like, oh, I think maybe I shouldn't have done this. And I remember seeing Doug at a wedding like a month after, and he came up to me really like, "Hey man, I'm sorry, could I get you a drink?"
I'm sorry for what I put you through.
Yeah. I think him and the like Nostalgia Critic crew are just so used to that type of thing. And it was just new to me to have such intense criticism on something I had a part in.
Which also says a lot about him in a way, the fact that he would care about the way that certain blowback has sort of come upon you for all of Doug's flaws and criticism of him over the years.
Yeah, he felt very bad about it. But yeah, now it's just kind of like a funny side note. Like I don't know how many hours I spent on the thing, but definitely a learning experience for sure.
To the point you were saying earlier with the nerve that you struck, I mean, in like my own personal experience and as a musician yourself, like, certain records are people's Bibles, you know, and I just finally as recently as was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year. I finally got out a video I've been promising like for years and years and years, and that was like my Pink Floyd worst to best. And on a few occasions of kind of bringing up the potential of a Pink Floyd worst to best, people just like kind of asking me preliminarily, like, oh, what might you say in it, or what, where might things, where would certain things fall? Even kind of just like, very flippantly, and I do feel this way, even very flippantly, just kind of saying, guys, honestly, I don't know if Dark Side of the Moon is going to be in my top three. I think the album's like, okay in comparison with some of their other records. Like even that, people are like, "What? Are you kidding me?" Like, that opinion spread like wildfire, and like for years afterwards, people were like, "Yeah, but you don't even think Dark Side of the Moon is good." And I was like, "Okay, like I didn't say that, and for some Pink Floyd fans, I don't know. I would think I have even more egregious opinions. Like I'm not a big Piper guy, for example. But Animals ranks super high for me. Wall ranks super high. Wish You Were Here ranks super high for me.
What was your number one if it doesn't give away?
It was Animals. It was Animals. But but still, like people, they take those kinds of opinions super seriously, and that was with me going a fraction of as hard as Doug went upon, one of the most
Yeah.
beloved albums of all time. When you're talking
Is
about
that
like,
is that the main reason for all the hate?
what, toward me, toward you, toward
No, no, no,
him?
not towards you, like towards the wall. I don't really, I watched yours and then I don't really watch it. I haven't watched any after that. Is that the main reason? I'm surprised that people are still talking about it and
Hmm.
still streaming it too, which is even more surprising to me.
The hate for the album that Doug did.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, Pink Floyd for some people is like their religion, you
Yeah.
know? Like, I mean, not only did they make great music, but I mean, in addition to that, like there's this sort of understanding of what they did within their lane being like, rock's answer to high art.
Mhm.
Especially given like, the film and the concept and so on and so forth. The idea that they're like saying something significant with the music as well that speaks to, topics that are deeper than maybe what you hear in your average rock song. All of these things contribute to a sense about these albums that are like, when you go against them and you call them, mediocre or underwhelming or maybe just not that good, you're also sort of like attacking the premise of the music itself, maybe
Yeah.
even to a degree what Roger Waters was saying about fascism and so on and so forth,
Yeah.
which I mean, obviously Doug also had criticisms of, he very much, at least in his video, didn't take the record's commentary on those topics very seriously. So, I mean, kind of another reason for people to be angry about it.
Yeah, maybe
you
that sounded stupid of me, but it's weird in the context. I didn't really give much thought to the lyrics or the criticism, which is dumb of me because like that's kind of the whole thing.
It's kind of the whole thing.
It's kind of the whole thing.
But honestly, on top of it, you're not somebody who professionally does that. So it's like
Not
you're
at
probably
all.
not. You're not listening to that part of it and thinking like, oh yeah, I'm really invested in what's being communicated here, because again, that's not a side of the internet that like you really deal in for the most
No,
part.
which is definitely a fault of me on this, but I always just took what he was saying as just pure goofing.
So when we talk about the fallout and how quick it came, like, I mean, you got a broad sense of it, when you saw the reaction, but like, aside from maybe what you were kind of referencing earlier in terms of like, hope you got paid for this, like how much of what you saw was like directly coming your way? And was that arriving through comment sections? Were people messaging you out of like anger or concern over the whole project?
No, not really.
Hmm.
Not really. And honestly, it really wasn't that bad. I think initially I just took it really hard because it was new for me. And it was kind of a whirlwind too, because it was just something that I got offered a gig to make music and I did it really quickly without too much thought into the outside perspective of it, other than I'm just going to make sure this organ sounds sick, or whatever I was doing.
Uh-huh.
And just pass it off and let it live in Doug's world. So it was weird. I think I probably took it harder than I should have initially.
Hmm.
But now in retrospect, I feel actually quite positive about it in a weird way. It's part of the wild ups and downs of being a YouTuber or being a public figure or whatever for so long. I don't know.
And to get some, further context on an element of this that you and I were talking about that I thought was like kind of interesting, like, you're making anything off of this record in terms of like, the streaming and the residuals and so on and so forth. Like in part, you're able to do that because the album is considered to be, even though it is obviously based off of Pink Floyd's work, it's parody. So as a result of that, like, it's just kind of all hunky dory. So because it's like, in the spirit of critique and in the spirit of fair use, as it were, it just like kind of is allowed to exist commercially in the fashion that it is right now.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm not an expert in this. I just know
Right.
from personal
Yeah,
experience.
there's like some gray areas for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not an expert. I just have a lot of experience dealing with it as a musician. But yeah, if it's a cover, then and I've done a lot of covers. They used to be like my most popular videos. I haven't done them in a really long time, but like
Right,
a cover.
Hey, you're legendary for the covers.
Thanks, man.
TBH.
The banjo covers were so much fun.
So good. And obviously like the making the shovels gent and so on and so forth. Like it's,
yeah, man,
a lot of legendary moments.
Thanks, man. Yeah. But yeah, with the cover, when I do those, which I haven't done a long time, but you have to make sure that the original artist gets like 15% about. I think it's something like that if you do a cover, but then something that is a critique is fair use, and that's pretty unique to my understanding in the US. Like if you're making a creative work to critique something, that's fair use, you own it. Or even a parody, like that's something that American law takes really seriously, which is different elsewhere in the world. But yeah, so those songs are they're just out.
Would you produce a My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy parody for me to record my critiques over, and then we can upload it to
man,
the
I've been through this before. I don't know. I also am not familiar with that.
Would you live this trauma twice? Would you?
I don't know. I think I'm maybe in a different position now.
Okay, that's. I'll find someone else to do it.
Maybe. Yeah, I actually I don't know enough about that song.
Oh no, the whole album. It's got to be the whole album.
The whole album? I definitely can't do the whole album. No, I'm making my own albums and videos.
Okay, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Yeah.
Rob, I appreciate you taking the time to be an open book about this. This has been a fun sort of, deep dive into a memory for a notorious record that has gone down in history, in a history.
Yep, and very, very bad. Yeah, thanks, man. It's been fun to talk about it. I didn't know earlier on. I just didn't know what to say about it, and even now, I'm kind of bewildered by the whole thing. Like, it's kind of as I've said a lot, it's kind of just a gig that I got on the side, and then it kind of had a life of its own. And I'm not even that familiar with so much. I saw your video, but I think that's the only critique I saw, and I only saw it right when it came out.
Yeah, watching the others, does it like create kind of like a gut reaction and you're just like, oh no?
A little. There's a gut reaction when I see myself represented online, and that's like the first thing they say.
Right. Then
there's a little bit of like, okay, well, I've done a lot of other things.
Has this created like a sense or sort of like and again, I've experienced this to some degree myself, but has this created a series of moments where maybe for a lot of people this is like their first exposure to you, and then you're having to sort of like worry about whether or not this is kind of painting their image of you?
No, I don't think there's a lot of people that initially heard about me from The Wall.
Okay, good.
I think it's mostly when I hear about it, I think it's mostly in jest. Like I saw somewhere recently, I think it was about the video game we made, actually. There was a review about Fretless, the game, and then there was a comment in jest, was like, oh, is that the guy from Nostalgia Critic's The Wall and never met N64 version's comment section? Like, and it was something like that, and it was like kind of funny. But I don't know, a little bit, but the punch to the gut has gotten only less and less and less over the years, and now it's something that I like kind of laugh about.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad
I feel good about it.
I'm glad that we could check in this way, and you're assuring me that you're happy and stable.
Yes, I am. I've been doing really good recently. Things have been real good on my side.
All right. Well, we're going to link to everything Rob down below, and we're going to link to Nostalgia Critics The Wall down there too.
Check it out.
Stream that shit. Stream it up. Stream that shit. Put it on a playlist. Listen to it while you go to sleep. Thank you again, Rob, for coming through. You're the man.
My pleasure, Anthony. Thanks so much for having me.